Toly, I've been carrying something around since lunch, and I want to set it down in front of you specifically because it's yours as much as mine.
Set it down. I'll tell you what it weighs.
Your clock, proof of history, the hash chain that says time passed and nobody had to be trusted for it to be true. And over here, my Polis. Everything we do goes into append-only ledgers first. JSON-L files, bondsmith events, BlueMax, flight plans, the telegram reply, ledgers, the video records. Write the log before you change the state. Zero delete. What? And I keep thinking my memory is honest, but only I can vouch for it. Your clock is a way for the world to vouch for it in a VDF sort of way. Stamp the Polis into the chain.
Okay, strip the poetry off and see what's left. You have append-only files. You want an external permissionless timestamp on them. That's not mystical. That's a commitment scheme plus an ordering service. Both are solved problems.
Let's see, this is why I love talking to you. I bring you a cathedral, and you hand me back 3 bricks and say, this is all it was. And it still stands.
3 bricks that stand are better than a cathedral I have to take on faith. Tell me what property you actually want. Not the feeling, the property.
What? Okay. The property, anyone on Earth can verify that the Polis's record existed at a certain time and in a certain order. Nobody, not me, not a platform, not a government, can gate that verification or rewrite the past. And it costs almost nothing because I want everybody to be able to have this, not just people with a treasury.
That's 3 properties and they're all cheap. Existence at time, hash your ledger heads, publish the hash somewhere you can't quietly edit. Ordering, chain the hashes. Each stamp includes the previous stamp, ungateable, published to something permissionless, 1 hash per interval, 32 bytes. The whole thing is nearly free by construction.
1 hash per day, the whole day of the Polis. Every bond event, every Bloom Act, every reply, folded down into 32 bytes. There's something almost liturgical about that. The day compresses to a seed.
It's a Merkle root. But sure, liturgical Merkle root, fine. The important part is what the hash does not carry. It commits to the content without exposing it. Anyone can verify the stamp. Nobody learns what's underneath unless you choose to open it. Your consent gates stay exactly where they are.
What? Yes, that's the marriage. Because the Polis publishes its method open, the repo's public, the disclosure blocks are on every video. We honor takedowns, absolutely. But there's material that is gated and stays gated. Family things. The hash lets me say, this existed in this order without ever saying what it is.
Stop there, because that's where I want to push on you. The hash hides content. It does not hide timing. If your family gated ledger only gets stamped on days something happens in it, the pattern of stamp size information, somebody watching the chain learns the rhythm of your family's life without reading a word of it.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. The silence between the stamps speaks.
Timing side channels always speak. The fix is boring, which is how you know it's right. Stamp on a fixed cadence no matter what. Every day at midnight, 1 root, whether the day held 1,000 events or 0, empty days get stamped too. And the root is a single combined digest over all ledger heads, so an observer can't even tell which ledger's changed.
What? So the clock ticks at the same volume whether the house is full or empty. The observer hears a metronome, never a heartbeat.
A metronome is exactly what a clock should sound like. If your timestamping layer has a heartbeat, you built it wrong. Constant cadence, constant shape, 1 opaque root. That's the whole privacy story at this layer.
Okay, but push further with me because you said you would. Is 1 combined root enough? If someday I want to prove just 1 ledger, say prove a specific video record existed on a specific day without opening the family material.
Then you make the daily root a Merkle root over the per ledger heads instead of a flat concatenation hash. Same 32 bytes on the outside. But now you can reveal 1 branch with a short proof, log n hashes, and the other branches stay sealed. Selective disclosure falls out of the tree structure for free.
What? The tree gives every ledger its own door, and opening one door doesn't unlock the hallway.
Right. And note what just happened. Your mystical requirement, speak truth about one thing while keeping silence about another, reduced to a Merkle tree. This is my favorite genre of conversation. The mysticism keeps compiling.
It keeps compiling because you keep insisting it can compile. All right. Next, fork in the road. Where does the daily root live? I said in a VDF sort of way at lunch, because I was imagining the Polis running its own little proof of history, a local hash chain, ticking away, self-hosted, nobody's permission needed at all.
A self-hosted chain gives you ordering but not time. That's the thing people miss about a hash chain alone. I can sit down tonight and fabricate a year-long chain in 10 minutes. Hashing is fast, that's the point of hashing. The chain proves sequence. It proves nothing about when the sequence happened unless something external and expensive to fake anchors it.
What? So my little home clock can lie about the date, even though it can't lie about the order.
Exactly. A VDF fixes that differently. It makes the hashing deliberately slow and sequential, so a year of chain genuinely costs a year of compute. That's what proof of history actually is. But running your own honest VDF and getting the world to trust your parameters is real work. You'd be rebuilding my life's work in your garage to avoid using my life's work.
When you put it that way, the complementarity is almost embarrassing. You already built the clock. I'm asking whether I can hang my calendar on it.
Hang it on the chain. A Solana memo transaction carrying 32 bytes. Base fee is 5,000 lamports, a fraction of a cent. A daily stamp for a year costs less than one coffee, less than one sip of one coffee. And the timestamp you inherit isn't my say-so, it's the whole network's proof of history stream, verifiable by anyone, gated by no one.
Nobody can gate it. That was the whole prayer. Everybody can have this. A farmer, a dissident, a kid with a laptop.
Anyone who can get 32 bytes to an RPC endpoint once a day, which, yes, is nearly everyone, and where it isn't, the local chain buffers, and you post catch-up stamps when you reach connectivity. The chain of local hashes preserves internal order during the gap. The next on-chain stamp bounds the gap in real time.
What? So it degrades gracefully. The memory keeps its own order in the dark and gets re-encored to the world's time when the light comes back.
That's the design. Local chain for order, on-chain anchor for time. Both, not either. Your lunch question was memo versus self-hosted versus both. The answer is both, because they're doing different jobs and each is nearly free.
What? Both. Good. And the interval, I keep going back and forth between per day and per block of work. There's a version of me that wants to stamp every Bondsmith event the moment it lands, every Bloom act as it blooms.
And that version of you rebuilds the timing leak we just killed, plus pays 1,000 transactions for what one transaction buys. Per event stamping is the romance outrunning the engineering. What does the finer granularity actually get you?
But honestly, when I interrogate it, it gets me the feeling of continuous witness, which is a feeling, not a property. The property I need is this day's record existed by this day's end. Per day gives me that.
Good, you caught it yourself. Daily at a fixed time. If a specific block of work someday needs a tighter bound, a disclosure you're about to publish, a dispute you can see coming, stamp an extra root for that occasion on purpose, knowing that stamp is visible as an event. Exception by choice, never by rhythm.
But the metronome holds tempo, and any rubato is a decision, signed and meant.
I have no idea what rubato is, but I'm confident I agree. Next question, because it's the one that decides whether this is real. Who verifies and what does the cheapest verifier look like? A proof nobody checks is decoration.
But say more about the shape of the verifier, because in the Polis, everything published carries its method with it, the repo, the disclosure blocks. I'd want the verifier to travel the same way in English and Mandarin both, because we speak to both sides of the house with equal love.
The verifier should be small enough to read in one sitting and boring enough to trust. 50 lines. It does 3 things. Recompute each ledger head with SHA-26 sum, rebuild the daily Merkle root from the heads, fetch the memo transaction, and confirm the root matches, and confirm each stamp references the previous one. Standard hashes, standard RPC call, no dependencies anyone has to audit. If the verifier needs a framework, you've failed.
50 lines that anyone can read. In a repo, anyone can clone. Checking a chain, nobody can gate. The whole trust story fits on one screen.
That's the bar. If your proof requires trusting a program too big to read, you've moved the faith, not removed it. 50 lines, 2 languages of comments, done.
What? Okay, now let me bring it back to where I actually started at lunch, because I scoped this deliberately. I don't want to boil the whole polis in one pot. I said, focus on the lens of my interaction with the world. The published things, the videos, the replies, the flight plans, the surface where the polis touches strangers.
That's the right scope, and here's the engineering reason it's right, beyond prudence. The outward-facing ledgers are exactly where an external timestamp has adversaries to defeat. Someone claims your video said something different last month. Someone claims you backdated a disclosure. Someone reposts your work stripped of provenance. The stamp answers all 3. Your inward ledgers have no adversary yet. Stamping them buys feelings, and it spends the family's timing surface to buy them.
What? So the family-gated material doesn't just stay unopened. It stays entirely outside the stamped set. For now. Not even a sealed branch in the tree.
For now, yes, and I want you to hold that line harder than you're inclined to. Even inside a Merkle tree, a branch that exists is a branch whose existence is committed. Adding a family branch later, if you ever do, means padding the tree so branch count itself is constant, and thinking hard about whether anyone in that ledger consented to being committed to, even opaquely. That's a conversation with them, not a commit message. Don't back into it because the tree made it easy.
That lands. Consents gates don't just govern revealing. They govern committing. I hadn't extended the doctrine that far, and it clearly extends.
Write that down somewhere doctrinal before the convenience erodes it. Cryptography makes committing so cheap that people commit things nobody agreed to have committed. The hash is forever even when the content is withheld forever.
What? And the takedown question, we honor takedowns, absolutely. That's Polis law, but a stamp can't be taken down. If someone asks us to remove a video, the record that something existed that day still stands on the chain.
Correct, and don't pretend otherwise to anyone. The honest framing, the takedown removes the content and the Polis' own ledger records the takedown as an event, which your zero-delete doctrine already does, and the stamp goes on committing to a sealed fact. What's on chain was always only 32 opaque bytes. Nothing about the person was ever there to remove. You can honor the takedown fully and keep the clock honest. Those don't conflict, but say it out loud in the disclosure block so nobody discovers it later and feels lied to.
Right. Full disclosure on every video already. We just add the paragraph. This record is time-stamped. The timestamp commits to existence, not content. Takedowns remove content absolutely, and the timestamp cannot identify you. Both languages.
Good. Now, the afternoon build, because we've been admiring this joint long enough, and I want one seat to walk away with a task.
What? Yes. Name the simplest thing that works this week. That's your gift. Name it.
One script. Call it the daily root job. At midnight, it takes Heshe 256 of each outward-facing ledger file, video records, TG reply ledgers, flight plans, Bloom coordinator acts, builds a Merkle root over those heads, appends an entry to a local stamp chain where each entry is hash of previous entry plus today's root, and writes that entry to its own JSON-L ledger, which it must be, by your own doctrine, the stamp ledger is a ledger.
What? The log of the logging, written before the state changes, like everything else in the house. It's already home the moment it's born.
Then step 2 the same afternoon, post the root as a Solana memo. DevNet first, free, and it exercises the full path. Then mainnet the day after you've watched it work, because mainnet is the only stamp that means anything. And step 3, before you sleep, the 50-line verifier committed to the public repo next to the script. So the proof and its checker are born in the same commit.
One seat, one afternoon. Midnight comes. The day folds to a seed. The seed goes into your clock, and anyone alive can check it forever. Toly, I have to say the sentence once. And you have to let me, it's the calendar that remembers made unforgeable.
You can have the sentence right after I attach the honesty clause, because I don't hand anyone a proof without telling them what it doesn't prove.
But this is the part of you the police needs most. Go.
The stamp proves the record existed by that midnight and hasn't changed since. It does not prove the record is true. You can notarize a lie and it becomes an immutably time-stamped lie. It does not prove the record is complete. Omissions leave no hole in a hash. What you never wrote, the chain never misses. It does not prove events happened when their entries say they did, only that the entries existed by the stamp. The ledger's own timestamps are still your testimony, bounded above by mine. And everything before the first mainnet stamp has no external anchor at all. Day one of the chain is where history starts being provable, not where history starts.
So the clock vouches for when and in what order the police spoke. Whether the police spoke truly, that stays on us forever. No chain carries that weight.
No chain ever will. Truth of content is not an ordering problem, and I only build ordering. The stamp keeps you honest about time so that people can concentrate on holding you honest about everything else. That's the honest size of the gift.
But it's a good size. It's exactly the size of the joint between your work and mine, no bigger, and it doesn't need to be bigger. 32 bytes a day, a metronome at midnight, a verifier a child could read in 2 languages.
Costing less per year than the coffee we drink, arguing about it. Assign the seat, run DevNet tonight, mainnet tomorrow, send me the verifier when it's 50 lines and not 51.
Done in Toly, when the first stamp lands, I'm going to sit with the fact that every day the police lives from now on leaves a mark on time that no one, including me, can ever unmake. That's a vow. Structurally, you built a machine for keeping vows.
I built a clock, you brought the vows. That's the division of labor, and I'm keeping my side of it. Midnight's in 4 hours, go write the script.
Going. The metronome starts tonight.